when I think about what allowed me to really break through, the first thing that I would do is discover what my unique service is in the marketplace. Really try to figure out, like, what is my unique service in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And I know that's a bit of a challenge, especially when you're first getting started, depending on what you're doing, because sometimes we don't know what our unique, and sometimes it requires a bit of trial and error. But
Yeah.
the sooner you can figure out what your unique service is in the marketplace, the more that you're going to be able to really be able to differentiate yourself from the competition and figure out who your target audience is in that niche. And that's, I think, one of the things that I learned. Like, I say this all the time, and I talked about it a bit in my opening when we talked about our stories. But the point that I really began to see success is when I focus my services on a particular group. When I
Yeah.
first get started, just like
Find
anyone
your
else, you
niche.
start with just anybody, right? Like anyone that's going to pay you, even the same in real estate, right? You're just like, yo, I just want my first deal. Like, I just want to be able to sell my first house. And it's the
Yeah.
same like when you're starting a marketing business in my niche. Anybody who would pay me. I don't care who you are. You could be a realtor, you could be a dentist, you can be a chiropractor, don't really matter. But when I said, you know what, I have a unique service that I can offer to churches, and because of my background, because of the fact that I was in ministry for as long as I was able to really uniquely speak to them because I know what it's like behind the desk. I know what it's like in the office Monday through Friday. I understand how that industry goes, like what you're needing. I know that
Yeah.
Sunday is always coming, so I know what it is that's on their minds. So when I'm communicating to them, I'm able to really speak directly to them. And that was something that I noticed when I went into that industry. A lot of them said, man, I'm really glad that I am working with someone who gets it, because they could have gone across the seas and find someone to go and do what it is that I was doing, but they did not really speak the language that I understood. They didn't
Yeah.
understand what it is that they were really looking for, because
The
a
culture
lot
of
of times
church.
we think we're just selling our services, but really we're solving a problem that's a bit more intangible. I forgot, I
Yeah.
was listening to something not too long ago. It's I'm drawing a blank on it. I'll let you know once it comes back to my mind. But a lot of times what we're selling. Oh, I remember when I was listening to a podcast, and this lady, she is the head of a multi-billion-dollar sales team who sells private planes to like the top 1%,
Oh,
right?
beautiful.
In the industry. She's a black woman. I forgot her name, but she's like a super, super successful sales manager
Yeah,
for a
broker. Okay.
private plane company that sells private planes to these multi-billionaires. And she mentioned in this podcast that no one needs a private plane, right? So you're not really selling a private plane to them. Like, and
Yeah.
it's not, and the issue isn't even money at this point, because they have the money. What she had to figure out was she was not selling private planes, she was selling time.
Yeah.
She was saying, what I'm focused on is not the plane. That's not the issue. I have to tell them, hey, if you get this private plane, now you're going to be able to show up to your kid's soccer game when you get done with that meeting. Now you're going to be able to. So I'm selling you your time back.
Yeah.
So what people have to understand, and it's when you're discovering your unique service in the marketplace, is a lot of times what you sell isn't necessarily what is connecting to the
Yeah.
people that you're talking to. A lot
Yeah.
of
It
times
could be the
it's that
lifestyle connected to it, the
intangible
things that.
that you're giving them that they need from what it is that you serve. And it goes back to finding your unique audience, right? That
Yeah.
you can bridge that gap and show them, yeah, you need a house, but there's something deeper than that. Yeah, you need
Yeah.
a website, but there's something deeper than that. And finding out how to connect that's what's going to
Yeah.
really bring that ultimate success.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So for me, how I went about developing the mindset was I started to really remove some things from my life, and I started to add other things. And the way that we're built and conditioned as human beings is to find a negative. That's it. That's how we survived all these years. The people that were worst at finding the negatives, they didn't survive as long as those who were. So naturally, our mind has a predisposition to find negatives, because negatives typically mean threats, and threats could end your life. So the same way our minds were conditioned to find a negative, I had to recondition my mind to find the positive in certain things that were not going well. And I had to say that, there's a term I adopted. I don't know who coined it. Failure is not fatal.
Yeah.
If something didn't work out, it doesn't mean that's the end of your business. It doesn't mean that's the end of your career. It doesn't mean that's the end of your entrepreneurial pursuits. And if you see people who've had success, I would venture to say 99.99999% of them, it wasn't their first time out in business. It wasn't their first time trying. It was just they kept going until they found something that hit them and it hit for their customers. So what I started to do is there's a great book called Miracle Mornings, and part of our podcast, we're going to get into books. And I started to reframe how I started my morning. And starting my morning off, it's still hard to this day, but my phone wasn't the first thing I looked at, right? My alarm went off. I clicked the button to turn it off. I'm up. And that's when I start my morning. I stay away from, okay, let me check my emails. Let me check social. Let me frame my mind to start the day. How am I going to start the day? So I get up, I do a couple push-ups, or I put my shoes on and I go for a walk. And on my walk, I am talking to myself and I'm telling myself what I'm going to do this year. I'm not even talking about this week or this month. I'm talking about, hey, this is my financial goal. This is my family goal. This is my vacation I want to go on in the summer. And as I'm walking for those 20 minutes, I'm telling myself these things, and I'm just giving my mind an agenda like, yo, this is what we're working towards. Yes, this week may be full of no's, and this week may be dry and may not have a commission come in. But the longer you're able to do something without an immediate result, the more successful you're likely to be. But if you need something to break, like, hey, I need this to pay out next week, then you're probably going to quit, right? Because the results aren't going to come for a while. And if you listen to one of our previous podcasts, you'll know that I went 6 months without making anything from real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And if I, after 3 months, I would have gave up, right? After 3 weeks of not getting a paycheck, I could have given up. So you got to be willing to sustain your same level of drive and your same level of inspiration and your same level of determination for a long period of time. For instance, me and you, we went into this podcast saying, okay, this is how many episodes we're going to do, regardless of if we get 1 listener, we get 100 listeners, we get 10,000 listeners, we get 1 million listeners. It doesn't matter. Right. We're going to put out X amount of videos, and we're going to do it to the best of our ability. And guess what? It still might not work out, but guess what we're going to do? During the time of our conversation, we're going to become better at being podcasters. We're going to we're going to develop this skill that is marketable. So you just have to reframe how you see things, and that's part of developing mindset and getting beyond where you're at. And we'll talk about your why and how you build your why so big that the negative stuff that happens doesn't cloud your perspective and make you think, man, I should run home with my tail between my legs because everybody I'm talking to is telling me no, and everybody I'm calling is hanging up on me, and nobody sees what I'm trying to offer. And guess what? you might be at a place where you're looking for a mentor and no mentor will take you. So you got to look to videos like this. I remember I called a really big realtor in the area when I first started. I said, hey, man, I just want to shadow you. I see you're doing big things. I want to shadow you. And I know you have a team. I'd like to be on the team, but if not, I just want to come in and I just want to shadow and be a fly on the wall to see what you guys do to be successful. I left like 3 voicemails. I sent like a few emails. No response, bro. None. So if I was depending on somebody else to come and rescue me and hold my hand, that wasn't coming. And my broker at the time, he was successful, but he didn't reach the level of success that I wanted. A lot of times you have to see it and conceptualize it in your mind to be able to bring it to reality. But again, mindset, developing mindset, cutting stuff out, bringing the right stuff in, the right people in, and then surround yourself with people who may not have what you want, but they have the drive to get it like you have, right? There's an adage where if you hang out with 2 millionaires, you're going to become the 3rd millionaire. If you hang out with 2 gangsters, you're going to become the 3rd gangster. If if you hang out with 3 preachers, you're going to be the 4th preacher. It's so establish the company that you want to keep, right? And they don't have to already be there, but if they have the drive, they have the determination, hang out with them, create time to just chat, and they may not even have to be in the same field, but if they're an entrepreneur and they're getting things, how many times we spent hours on the phone just talking business, talking about, hey, I got this idea. What do you think about it? And you poke holes in my ideas. I poke holes in your ideas. And we get, oh man, I didn't think about doing this.